You and I are constantly bombarded by misinformation from politicians, celebrities, and media personalities who demonize guns and gun owners. Their accounts are contrary to my experience as a responsible gun owner, a retired police officer, and a professional competitive shooter. I have listened to their lies and I've taken their punches, but I refuse to stay silent any longer because I know a lot of women who have something to say and they won in the game. They're ready to play offense with the truth.
The truth is, we all want the same thing: to protect ourselves, our families, and to be safe in our communities. The DC Project is a nationwide grassroots organization made up of women from every demographic. We come from all different walks of life, but we are united in preserving our Second Amendment rights. As we share our experiences, we push back against gun control lies and oppose those who demand our rights be restricted.
As an immigrant from Venezuela, I saw how easy it was for freedom to die. My family and I watched tyranny destroy our home. In Venezuela, the media, celebrities, and politicians repeated the same anti-gun messages until people found it normal and acceptable to give up their freedoms. The reality is, none of it is normal or acceptable. Hungry and helpless, Venezuelans are now unable to protect themselves. Now, as a proud American, I am determined to guard against the same things happening here.
We constantly hear about common sense gun control, like universal background checks, banning assault weapons, ghost guns, high-capacity magazines, and gun show loopholes. Every city that is facing massive crime waves have put these policies into place. Common sense tells me that they don't work. So why do people still believe the idea that those policies save lives? Actual common sense is holding criminals accountable, not letting them out of jail or encouraging them to be more confrontational. Common sense is not stealing the right of the American people to protect themselves. This is the message that America needs to hear.
The DC Project works to reduce firearm accidents by campaigning for education in schools. We counter the false gun control lies by testifying in hearings and meeting our legislators. We equip our friends, our families, and our communities to know the truth. Gun owners are good people.
America is a beacon of freedom. The Second Amendment is a vital piece in ensuring that our kids can have a free country to grow up in. We stand with the lawmakers who support the Constitution, and we provide armor from the attacks by the gun control lobby.
Join the DC Project today. Become a member, donate, or subscribe to our newsletter for updates on how we educate, advocate, and preserve our Second Amendment rights for generations to come.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
shooter stand by.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection. And it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
So, hey there, Rob. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Eye on the Target Radio with Rob and Amanda.
We made it.
Yeah, another week. There we go. I'm telling you, it's been a rough week. I feel like I just kind of clawed to the end of the week and pulling myself up, kind of like I'm wearing my toddler's shoes and standing on a little safety gate.
It's winter. That's what it is. Winter stinks. It stinks a lot, I think.
Well, we haven't had any snow. We're in Ohio, as y'all know. So we haven't had really any snow, but did we get rain?
Yeah, we're getting the little spots of snow in the morning, and it comes in and rain afterwards. So now we got cold mud.
We definitely have cold mud. And I had enough rain that I have a soggy driveway and a side yard that we'll just say that you don't go walking down there without hip boots right now because it was just a little deep.
I thought you were going to say a submerged driveway. Then everybody want one.
It wasn't quite that, but it looked like it was headed there. I was watching it. I was really watching it. So, man, I have been trying to. This is like the hurry up and wait season. There's so much stuff going on that you're like, what's happening here? What's happening there? What's happening? And there's so many different bills and laws and things that are moving along. So I'm excited.
Bruin's hard at work. That's all.
Bruin is really hard at work. So the Florida legislative session has not officially opened yet, but when it opens, then they will be hearing and discussing their version of. They call it constitutional carry. It's not constitutional carry. It is permitless carry because it has restrictions. It has a serious amount of restrictions.
How can they use a word that it isn't?
Words have meaning.
Yeah, why are they allowed to do that? To build your hopes up and then
who's going to stop them from doing that?
Somebody should.
Huh?
Somebody should.
Well, yeah, I don't know. So Ohio, on the other hand, on Tuesday, that would be 2 days from now, is going to start to talk about the Second Amendment Preservation Act, and they're taking testimony. So I've got a group of gals driving down to talk about that. So when you start to look at legislation that's on the move, I just heard that Nebraska is making progress. Florida's making progress. The student campus carry in West Virginia is moving. Ohio's SAPA, and then there is another state that is working on their version of constitutional carry. So it'll go from 25 to 28 states pretty darn quickly.
I think Trump called it winning.
There is. I mean, but it's pretty cool. And then
it's funny, as I get so many people that every couple days at least, if not every day, I get phone calls or people meet me on the street and then they ask me about because they know the Democrats are going to take their guns away from them. They hear them say it in the stuff, and Joe Biden's like he's declaring war on the semi-automatic rifle and stuff like this. But Bruin's not going to allow that. And like I say, we're winning if we allow them to put some type of a move on the Constitution to change it. Then that's on us. We need to be vigilant of the fact that unless we allow them to change it, there's not going to be anything that's going to stick to this.
Well, and it's good. I mean, it really is good that it is moving in that direction. But there's some stuff right now that's happening with, there are 9 states that have restrictions on AR bans, and Firearms Policy Coalition and a few others are leading the charge with like 7 of those states. They've got lawsuits going. So they said there's 9 states that have AR restrictions, and whoever's running the Twitter account for Firearms Policy Coalition is like, not for long. And then they listed them. It was pretty cool.
The funny part, we keep hearing that there's a delay for Class 3. So if you're buying a short-barreled rifle or a suppressor or any of those things, supposedly comes. We got new electronic Form 4s or whatever, and then it's right back to the same 9-10 months before you
right, but they're saying, they're telling Congress we should be able to do it in 90 days.
Well, I seen that one of the guys puts a bill together from Idaho, Republican from Idaho, putting a bill together that says if they said they could do it in 90 days, name that tune. And if they don't make it happen in 90 days, then it automatically pass.
Well, isn't that, and that, I like it. I'll just say I like it because there's a thing where when they restrict your abilities, what do they say? A right delayed is a right denied. And so the longer that they restrict it, the more restrictive it is.
And they can use every kind of excuse about computer problems or they don't have money for pay people or whatever, but it's still, they're taking your rights away by not spending their money or by spending it foolishly or doing something different. I think by putting this end line in there where it automatically passes. If it doesn't, then...
Well, the question is that it's a Senate bill. The conservatives do not necessarily have the Senate. So he's going to rattle this cage. It's not going to go anywhere, but it's going to plant a seed. Yeah.
But it's also showing that they got some stuff where the guys have applied. It took them, too long for the FBI's background check. Mm-hmm. So they just kicked it back, and you had to start over from square one because
they're like, we languished.
The system's buggy, so we can't just go and pick it up in the middle. You have to start all over again. So you're already 8 months into it before you find out that you have to send more paperwork or something.
Right. Yeah, those are the people who have standing. Right now, it's really cool watching different organizations reach out and ask if you know somebody that is in this place or this circumstance or that circumstance that has standing to be able to file the lawsuits, because there's now groups and organizations that are willing to file the lawsuits and they have justification for it, but they can't just file it on principle. They have to have somebody impacted, so they have to go look for those people.
But now they have 40 million SIG brace guns that are going to be short-barreled rifles, and people are going to apply for a license. How are they going to incorporate that into the behind system?
They're already behind, and then they're like, so we've got 120 days and counting and it's counting fast, that they're going to have to apply. But people have filed suits to kind of hold that up. So it's extremely interesting watching these.
Only if you're a nerd. If you're a nerd.
I didn't intend to be a legislative nerd, but I think I've become one. It's kind of scary. You're like,
it's funny. I get people send me stuff all the time. I didn't go to college to be a lawyer. What does this say?
What does this say? And you're like, I didn't go to college to be a lawyer either.
They'll send me this something they picked up on YouTube or somewhere. They're like, what does this mean to me?
Yeah. No, there's a couple 2A lawyers that are on YouTube that do a really good job of explaining what does that mean to you or me. What does that mean? Where are they concerned? Why are they concerned? How does it look? And so it's really good.
I think the best part is we're starting to see in the news that people who are repeat offenders are starting to take some of the brunt of law enforcement's capabilities.
So it's really
in the past where the cops would pull them in and the prosecutors would let them go. Now they're starting to do something with the prosecutors too.
Well, when we come back at the bottom of the hour, we're going to talk about that, because we're going to do the history section in the next section. But then at the bottom of the hour, we're going to start to talk a little bit about criminal reform and what's going on, because we've been beating that drum for a while. And so now there's some other things. So I'm just going to tell you, don't zoom through all of our topics in the intro section, because that one, there's a lot to it. There's an absolute lot to it. And we're going to want to...
I figured you could go back to them. Nothing says that once I say something, you don't have to...
Well, that's how when you're driving the bus, I'm just hanging on. Right? I feel like I'm that guy on the back of the ladder truck, right, hanging on to the ladder as he goes around the corner in the cartoon people. That's how I feel like I am. So when we come back, we're going to talk history. What are we talking history of?
We'll talk about some shotgun stuff.
Okay, and I found out today that primers are now available at Brownell. So we're going to talk about that a little bit too, because we have had a shortage of primers and reloading supplies and raw materials for quite a while. We'll be right back.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3 and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie. I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, so back, and we're talking history, and you said history of the shotgun, shotgun. What are we talking about?
We'll talk about a bunch of them. Well, the shotgun's like the oldest piece going. It was a smoothbore gun that they could shoot shot or a solid ball through or whatever. The way that they figured the size of a gun, you've got 12 gauge or 16 gauge. 16 balls that size weigh 1 pound is a 16 gauge. Mm-hmm. And then so like a 410, they go with the bore diameter, but in reality it's like a 67 gauge.
Okay.
I've seen it listed as 67 and 36. So I don't know. I've never dug up enough balls to see
try to figure it out. Okay, got it.
It would make more sense to be in that 36 range because if you look at 20 and 28 and 24s and all that down through, 67 is a pretty small number.
Right.
But anyhow, the shotgun, like I said, has been with us for a long time. Mostly when it went to cartridge guns, it went to breakdown actions like single shot and double action or double barreled guns. The English, trying to get more firepower, would sometimes make two, like 3-barrel and 4-barrel shotguns.
Okay, so let's go back to. So it started with like the flintlocks, and then where did shotguns come in? How did that?
Well, mainly, like I said, they started as a smoothbore thing, so they shot whatever they had, small rocks, something that were the right size.
But so it could be a flintlock shotgun.
Right, and then they called them fowling pieces early on, and just because you shot at birds and stuff with them.
Okay.
Then it was the military used it. They had what they called buck and ball load, which would be a couple of pellets and a ball about the right size. So it had plenty of different uses all the way through. And then as it went to cartridge guns, they still stuck with like the buckshot for like the coach gun, stuff like this for self-defense. Also, they shot deer with them and bears and other things like this where it's legal, not legal here in Ohio. But then they also had slugs. Originally, they called them pumpkin balls because they were just round lead balls, and then later on they went to what they call a Foster slug, which is a half-round cup that's about the size of the bore, a little bit undersized. It's usually has a cardboard driver that pushes it out, and then they engraved the rifling on the outside of it so that the wind passing over it would make it spin to give it some accuracy.
Okay, so once it hit the air,
then
it would
air
start to
started
spin.
to make it spin, and that caused it to be somewhat more accurate.
Talk about hoping, right? Here's a design that I hope is going to work.
Well, and the German stuff, the Brennecke's, they used a cork wad that was actually screwed to the base of a solid lead thing. With the wind channels were deeply cut into it. So their design was much better than the standard Foster slug, but also much more expensive to build. But they're still, today, Brennecke makes a first-class slug if you're looking for...
Okay.
And but getting to where the English were trying to get more firepower, they would put sometimes 3 and 4 barrels in a row, or sometimes they would stack them so you'd have 2 on the bottom, 1 on the top, or sometimes they would just have over and under side by side, so you had 4 barrels in a row.
Okay. And I've seen somewhere it's a shotgun and then a rifle or a shotgun at 22.
The Europeans that were good at this, they called them like drillings and deerlings, stuff like this, depending on whether they were 2 barrels, 3 barrels, 4 barrels. They would be, a lot of times it would be like a medium-sized rifle and 1 or 2 shotgun barrels. And that way, then you only had to own one gun because their gun laws were always somewhat restrictive.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of having to go through the paperwork a bunch of times, you just bought one gun and it could do
everything.
things.
But it didn't do any of it good if it could do it all.
But for the time, though, considering they didn't have optical sights or anything like this, they did an all right job for what they were.
Okay.
If you look at some of those, they're masterpieces. I mean, when you push the rifle safety off, it presents the rifle sights to you, and when you put the safety back on, the sights go away and the shotgun sights come in place and stuff. It's a mechanical marvel when you look at it. But the Americans...
And the craftsmanship of those, because those are hand-built.
Right, when you look at them, even if you are not a gun person, you want to have one just because of the quality of the workmanship that went into putting one together. The Americans, on the other hand, we're all about doing things differently. And so a guy named Christopher Spencer, who made the Spencer repeating rifle during the Civil War, he went in with a guy named Sylvester Roper. And Roper is famous for inventing the choke in the shotgun.
Okay.
And so him and Roper built this pump shotgun in 1882. You wouldn't hardly recognize it as a pump shotgun, but
because how did they pump it? Was it like
it had
Lewis and Clark against the?
No, it had a pump handle just like a regular forearm, but it looked more like a wooden baseball out there instead of a pump handle.
Oh, I've seen those where it's like just a
round wooden ball, basically.
Handful, right?
And then the action itself was kind of round also, and when you fired it, it ejected the empty shell on top of the breech block, and because then it would tilt down, and then the live shell would come out of the magazine, and it would, as it picked it up, it would throw the empty shell out the top and put the new shell in. They ran out of money, so they sold to Bannerman, who was a shyster or a scrap dealer from New York, who bought all kinds of military surplus and everything, and sold things all around the world. And he sold these shotguns until 1893, when Winchester and Browning came out with their 1893 model. Mm-hmm. And Bannerman sued them and tried to make them stop, but it didn't work out well. And
so did Bannerman have the patent, or had they gone around the patent?
They had gone around his patent, and there was also 3 patents in England that more aligned themselves with the Winchester work than the Bannerman stuff. Okay. 11 years will do a lot for you in the patent market.
Right.
So 11 years later, Winchester and Browning came up with this other idea. It's actually a pretty good gun. Remember, at that time, the shells were short, so they didn't have a lot of power, and they didn't put a locking mechanism on the gun. So if you fired it and it didn't go off, you could eject it right away and then put another shell into it. Well, sometimes when you were duck hunting, the paper shells of the day would hang fire, and so the shell would go off next to you while you were standing in the duck blind.
Yeah, not a good idea to eject until. Okay, so we'll add to this when we come back right after break.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolcool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Riding Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
Okay, so we are back. So let's continue on the conversation that you were saying about the shotgun.
Okay, well, Winchester went to Browning with this problem that the thing would eject the live shells in the middle of the air and then possibly go off at that time. So he put a locking system into the thing. So if it didn't fire, you had to bump the action forward to unlock it, or it had a push button to unlock the action to open it. And this way, then you didn't automatically eject the shell in the middle of a round of fire.
So that you had to stop and think about it for a second.
Right. So give it a chance for that hang fires or whatever to do their thing at that point. And so that shotgun was actually so popular that Winchester made it from 1897 until 1957.
1897 and 1957, so 60 years.
Right. And in the meantime, then they needed a better shotgun because that one had an external hammer on it. And they wanted one of the more stylized guns that Browning was coming out with. So Browning and a guy named Johnson, I think the guy's name was Johnson. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I read that. They worked on it, and they come up with the Model 12 Winchester. And it was the gun that all other guns were judged against. I mean, the Model 12 was the best gun ever until probably about 1970 when things started to Winchester stopped making them because they were too expensive, and kind of handed the moniker off to the Remington with their Model 870.
Okay.
The 870 was a good tough gun until Remington kind of did bad things to it by cheapening it up. And so if you have one of the 870s that they call a Wingmaster, it says Wingmaster right on it, and it has like a chrome floor plate in the bottom where you put the shells in, and an aluminum trigger guard. Those were the good ones. When you went to the cheaper one, the Express model they called it. It had a plastic trigger guard. A lot of the trim work was all black, and even some of them I've seen even had plastic ventilated rib on the barrel.
Okay.
So they were cutting the corners as far as they could.
As far as those corners could be cut.
And then let's give Mossberg. We were talking about Mossberg in the past, and Mossberg in 1960 came out with their Model 500, and then they had a sister company called the Maverick, and almost identical gun. And the Marlin or the Maverick kept going with a cheap 1960 platform of manufacture, where the Mossberg moved up and put double bars on the pump handle.
Okay.
Early on, they only had a single, and that would either break off or sometimes it would like cock in there and cause you to jam or something. So by putting the double arms on it, made it a lot tougher. They changed some of the plastic pieces to aluminum on the Mossberg, and it always had like interchangeable barrels, so you could buy different barrels relatively cheap to put on there. So that made the Mossberg much more user friendly to the average buyer.
Well, and it
also took 3-inch shells right from the start.
Okay.
Where the 870 you had to buy a Magnum gun, they shoot 3-inch shells.
Well, and it's kind of stayed now as one of the staples in the shotgun world.
Right. I mean, from when it was the giggling, laughing, pointing gun of the 1960s that we would buy for $54 at the.
Well, let me tell you, when I bought mine, it wasn't $54.
We bought a 3-inch Magnum with an extra barrel. It was $54 for the gun and $18 for the slug barrel at the time.
Wow.
From the Western Auto Store.
I'll tell you, I went looking when I was looking for a shotgun. This was quite a few years ago. But when I was looking for a shotgun, they had they'd come out with the thumb hole stocks, and for me, it allowed me to have a much better control over the shotgun, and to use my hand to control some of the recoil, so I didn't have to take so much of it in the pounding.
They have a much better feel to them, I think, when you're using that pistol grip, because the other grip is kind of awkwardly manufactured to fit everybody, and the thumb hole stock has a much thinner, more precise grip to it.
I love it.
It's funny, everybody wants something different. So some of them still want the old original metal beads. Some of them want this new fiber optic sights, and some of them still want scopes and red dots and different things. So.
Well, yeah, and the fiber optic stuff they call it scintillating, where it collects light from all directions and then focuses it at
you.
The
Mossberg was set up to handle that from real early on, so they drilled and tapped the things for scope mounts and bases and different things. So, they thought that thing out pretty well, and
I think so.
They made a pretty decent, tough shotgun at a realistic price point that it's hard for everybody else to compete with.
Well, and so I think it's easy to run. It's just easy. It fits. It's just they've done it and they've done it. They've done it and they've done it well. So okay. Is there anything else that our folks need to know about shotguns?
No, I mean there's some that actually eject out the bottom. So if you're left-handed, they're better guns. Like the early Remington Model 17s and Model 10s were bottom eject. The Ithaca 37 was always a bottom eject gun, so all those were Browning design also.
Okay.
And then early on, they didn't have to wait too long. Browning came out with his first semi-automatic shotgun in 1903.
1903. And it's so crazy when you sit and you listen to people right now, and they're trying to tell you what was out there and when it was and history and
I showed you that pistol the other day online. The guy had the Bouchard pistol. So he had a C93 Bouchard pistol in a leatherette case and stuff like this. I think the last one I seen sold for about $60,000 or something. They were such new technology in 1893 that they didn't, and they were expensive, so they didn't sell well for a couple of different reasons.
Right. I think that was the guy who said that he'd seen it, he wanted it, and he was trying to see if there was a market for selling his kidneys so he'd have enough money.
But the funny part was Bouchard was an American who moved to Germany to build that gun, and he trained this young man named George Luger.
So Bouchard was the creator of the Luger in effect.
And if you look at the Bouchard lockwork, the Luger actually is a stolen.
He just interned the Luger. Isn't it funny where no matter whatever industry you're in, the world is small. And the same people come around and around and around. And so it's like, you need to be very careful with what bridges you burn. Because what do they say? That as the people you step on as you climb up the ladder are the people that, at some point,
Right? I mean, it's especially if you listen to history, a lot of these guys they started out as nobody and worked their way up through, or they were a general in the army with a good idea, and some of it caught traction. Some of it they had to actually go do it themselves.
Well, and in some cases, the army picked them because guess what? They're cheaper than a guy that was in the free market because the army had that guy. I have you, I have your time, I have your labor, and I have your effort until I release you from the army. Right? Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about we've talked about faster saves lives and that, but there's in the news that just came out this past week. There is a Texas superintendent that resigned because he was part of the Guardian program in Texas, and that is where they arm school administrators and staff, and they pick a couple different people and they arm them and they have them there to protect the schools. Obviously, not all Texas schools, because Uvalde was one of those.
Right.
So
the thing is, like this guy, he had left his gun in the
bathroom, and he left it in a student bathroom. So that was the other part, is how many adults, I mean, if it's a third grade student bathroom, after you're a grown-up and you go back to the grade school,
when you see that the toilet's 1 foot off the floor or something.
Right, have you used their toilet? I mean, because you start to go into that position and all of a sudden it's 6 inches
because
lower.
No one else knows that whether they had real full-size facilities or not, or anything. But it just goes to show you, though, that no matter how careful things are, things go bad for somebody. Did you, what do they call it when the familiarity breeds contempt?
Well, I think to me, this is a story of gear. And good gear versus not gear.
Is it the fact that the guy just recently started carrying, so he didn't miss the gun right away? Or was it that he had carried for so long that he didn't miss the gun right away?
I don't know one way or the other, but to me, when you have good gear, there isn't really cause for you to take that gun off of your person.
That's the thing too, is
leave it.
If you're out with a lot of people, seeing a lot of different gear and in use and so on, then you learn something. If you're in a group where you're one of two people or three people and nobody really is a gun person to start with. How do you find out about gear? By going to the gun shop and asking them, and they make a recommendation.
And they sell you a nylon holster named after somebody's uncle.
Because they want it, because it's cheap.
It's the one that they had.
For $17 or something. And
right.
A lot of times you don't get the best equipment no matter what, but just because no one knows what the best equipment is. And you see it even in some of the fancy guys that play guitars and so on. People say, well, how does he play that cheap guitar? Well, he didn't know there was anything better because that's what he got.
That was his guitar.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's that's what the guitar he had.
So one of our listeners says, I taught for 20 years in elementary. I never use the student bathrooms because they're gross. We'll just say, We'll just say they're lower to the ground, and maybe their aim's not where it should be. Something. I just think they're low, and so there's that. We'll be back right after this.
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Seppacool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough? Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Shotgun with Charlie. I'm Charlie Cook from Writing Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Writing Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, so we are back. Let's talk a little bit about criminal reform, and I'd pulled a couple stories to hand to you about them because this is I think where we're going with the whole Bruin thing.
I told you, Bruin's made it so the gun's not the bad guy anymore.
The gun's not the bad guy.
So
and
there's one that. Here's another one. This one was very interesting. They're finding out that 75 people committed 1,800 crimes in one weekend or something.
Yeah, so it's there. So here's what came out: is when I started to do a search, it was Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, Baltimore, Maryland. There was a few other places, and they're starting to look at criminal reform, and so they said that over the course of a weekend, that so we'll start with Atlanta. Atlanta estimates that they had about 1,000 individuals create the majority of their crimes, and that repeat offenders are committing up to 40% of the crimes in the city. One of the offenders, they named him as a 64-year-old, had been arrested 45 times, was convicted of his first felony in 1976, and he's continuing on with that trend. Another one is a 60-year-old that he 68 prior arrests with 14 felony convictions.
How much energy do those old users have?
When you look at it and say that if you've been arrested and you've got 14 felony convictions, at what point do they say, I don't think that you're going to I don't think that you're going to be a reformed citizen? I mean, because I do believe that there are people that they screw up, and then they're like, I am never going to do that again, and I am a model citizen from that point.
Someone say he lives in a certain neighborhood and he has a network built up, okay?
Uh-huh.
Why wouldn't they just put him on a bus like they do at the border and send him to a new neighborhood?
To a new neighborhood and tell him
see how his network works out for him at that point.
Well, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, you go back to what you're familiar with, and there is that. So when you really start to look, they're talking about the crimes, and there's a story, and I started digging because the mayor of Chicago, the
ex-mayor of Chicago.
Yes, well, soon to be ex-mayor. So she was not reelected. And she says that it is because we're all racist and nobody wanted a female mayor, nor did they want an African-American mayor. Discounting the fact that they'd elected her 4 years ago as a female and African-American.
It seems funny. The rest of the article seems to be that they want to be able to go outdoors without being clubbed to death and get a job because nobody was hiring in an area where you can't go outside.
Where the crime had been, where was the number? That the crime had picked up in the last couple of years had been, what was the number? It was up like 50-some%. I thought I highlighted that. I obviously didn't. Yeah, so it really is the crime, and people, when they did the surveys, 44% said that public safety was their top issue, and the next thing that everybody could agree on was jobs. And then they tied that back to the fact that the communities weren't safe, and so people didn't go to those communities, so now there weren't jobs in those communities. And it trailed by 30% percentage points behind that as to where people stood. But criminal reform is the thing. When I find this number, yeah, I can't. So she campaigned in 2019 by saying that crime was too high, but then the crime spiked dramatically, and I think that the number was that the crime picked up like 50-some% afterwards.
Some of it we're seeing in different cities across the country where the prosecutors are starting to be held accountable for some of this stuff because they're the one who actually is in charge of charging people with
deciding that they are going to charge or secondarily charge or waive or negotiate down a charge, because that's the other thing that we've talked about a lot, is that gun crimes are the first thing in the recidivism rates that is negotiated down. And so it doesn't make sense that if you're a criminal that should not have a gun, and then
the first thing they throw out is the fact you got a gun and you shot at somebody or you did something stupid with it.
Did you see the New Jersey guy that they just arrested at the airport?
The one trying to get on the airport with a fake badge and the AR-15 and the ammo and stuff.
So he had a 308. So when you fly with an airplane, not when you fly in an airplane with a gun, because in order to fly, you either need really good drugs or you need an airplane. But when you fly on an airplane, you have to declare your firearm. So you go in, you have to go in early. You go to the counter, you say, I have a firearm in this bag. And in some cases, they just make you write a ticket and you put it on top so that when they scan it, they know you declared it. Other places, you and I have been to where you have to go to a secret room, they go through all your stuff, they look at everything before they'll take your suitcase with your gun from you. But there is no such thing as just checking your bag, there's guns in it, and you just move on, right? This dude got on the airplane, and when they were doing a scanning it onto the airplane, they noticed that there was a AR-15, a 308 rifle, some, I don't know what else. There was a bunch of stuff.
I know, it just said he had a rifle, some ammo, and a fake badge for
so he had
U.S. Marshal Service.
He had documentation that said that he was a U.S. Marshal. So they came to him and asked him if he was a U.S. Marshal, and he's like, no. And they're like, oh, well, your suitcase says you are, right? And so it started there. But come to find out that when they talked to him and then they pulled him off the airplane to have another conversation, he was a felon.
Maybe he found that suitcase like that other guy that works at the White House. No. We're just going to say no. No. When you put your name on your suitcase, you've claimed it, regardless. That's where they tell you, don't touch anybody else's bag, don't watch anybody else's bag, don't steal anybody else's bag and write your name on it, because now it's whatever's in it is your trouble. Well, that's the thing. So I just seen that guy who was stealing the luggage at the White House, he had a picture taken with some of the clothing he had stolen from one of them, the woman spotted her custom-built dress.
It was a designer. It was a designer one-off dress, so it wasn't like, I had one like it. I made that. It was mine, and yes. So this guy didn't do that. It was that.
I think the lesson here is don't take pictures of yourself with any of your stuff, no matter if it's your stuff or not.
Well, don't get on an airplane with contraband.
Don't show pictures on internet, anything like this.
Well, that would be
take pictures, but don't show them on the internet.
Well, there's don't take it like that. I don't know. Pete's asking, was that the first time he traveled like that or the first time he got caught? I think that they scan most stuff going in because they're looking for things that should not be in airplane cargo holds. And so they're looking for air tanks and battery type things.
Batteries.
Things that will go boom given a couple of hour flight, and things that go south after that flight that went down in the Everglades in Florida. So I think that's what that is, and they are watching. But I'm sure that there's more stuff that they see than you can imagine. We'll be back.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Shooter standby.
You hit the radio bullseye. And the home for everything Second Amendment, concealed carry, the latest gear, reciprocity, legislation, the right to self-protection, and it shall not be infringed. This is Eye on the Target Radio with your hosts, Rob and Amanda.
Okay, we're back, and as I promised over the break, I looked for that number that I knew that I had seen in these pieces of paper where we were talking about Chicago and crime. And so when the mayor, Lori Lightfoot, ran for mayor of Chicago, she ran on a crime, saying the criminals, there was too much crime in Chicago, and she was going to fix that. From the time that she ran and was elected into office, then crime went up 47% in 2019, up another 29% in 2020, and then there was a minor decline in at least murders in the first 4 months of 2022. So, and then there's not really numbers after that. But so, I mean, when you really look at it and you take something and you multiply it by, 50% again, so you have 100 of something, now you have 150 of it, then you multiply that by another 30%, so then your number, so in a couple years, those numbers had just exponentially grown.
I mean, the numbers are bigger than that, but if they'd had one before and now they have two, they've grown.
Right, but if they have 100, now they have 150. So you look at it that way, and then you take that 150 and you add another.
That number's not bad unless you're one of those 150, right?
Well, it's and I'm just using 100 number because there's a number, right?
I was just reading also that they're saying that gun owners, almost invariably, every one of them have one gun that they keep unlocked.
Okay.
And so the liberals were flying to pieces about that.
How dare they? Right.
Well, I mean, how are you supposed to do it? It's like having a guard dog that's keeping a chain.
Right.
It's,
so
it's
as
not
long
doing
as
much guarding
if something's happening, you got to run to stand where the guard dog is, right? Yeah, exactly. So there's that. The other piece of information, the other piece of data that I wanted you guys to hear, because it really is about criminals and criminal reform. So when you go to Chicago, if the number was 100, then it went to 150, then it went to 195. So in 2 years, it almost doubled when they're talking these percentages. That's how bad it was getting there. So when she said it was bad, and she's like, I'm going to fix it, and then instead it doubled on her watch.
When you look,
that's why she's not mayor.
Some of the FBI statistics is that, I mean, the same thing's happening in almost all Democrat-run large cities.
Right.
So whether it's Boston or Philadelphia or...
Well, I have some Boston numbers too. Or no, I have some Baltimore numbers. So another B city.
Right, but I mean, a lot of those, they're just, they've pretty much just let the criminals run free, and
right.
they don't bother to do anything about it. And even if they threaten during election cycle, it never makes it to the end game.
They don't. Here's the other thing that in Baltimore, they had 105 suspects arrested for homicide. 105. Of those, 88 had prior arrests, with more than half of the 105 being individuals that had been priorly arrested for violent crimes and gun crimes. So.
And how long does it take them to notice that they don't want to hang on to these guys?
I'm just saying, there's a clue in there somewhere. Just a clue. But on the other hand, there is a Democrat in Missouri who is absolutely tone deaf. So Representative David Tyson Smith is talking about the 2023 legislative session in Missouri, and he believes that even though the GOP has a supermajority in Missouri, he is optimistic that his colleagues are going to work with him to pass measures to keep firearms out of the hands of minors. And then he defines the minors to be anyone under the age of 20.
Well, that's the trouble. They
redefine.
They lump these gangs and everything in with children. So you're seeing in your mind's eye little kids on a playground. And in reality, your mind's eye should be seeing a little paramilitary group that's got a.
There is that, but the other part is that from 18 to 20 years old, you can get married, you can buy a car, you can sign for a house, you can absorb debt, you can join the military, and yet they're saying that he wants to restrict that because they're minors. Well, no, they're not. In the United States.
So that's the spot where that's the one that says the GOP can get behind that bill?
Yeah, because they're smart gun control, because it's in the hands of minors, and so we want to be able to restrict the selling or purchasing of semi-auto or fully automatic firearms. So I think it's adorable that he thinks that 18 to 20-year-old many would have fully automatic firearms, considering
they've been illegal and the price is so high that normal people can't afford them.
Right. Yeah.
So where are they getting them from? Why aren't they working on that part of it?
And I don't even think that they are getting them. I think he's just lumping this all together in this feel-good legislation.
They had some kind of a toy that goes on a Glock airsoft gun that they were bringing in from China and selling just in the old place. I think it was kind of like those oil filters that they were selling on.
Right. There's a few of those things, and I believe that there's a 3-letter agency that is involved on Amazon that is running the store, if you will.
Well, that's the best way to get money for do things is to sell stuff that people want.
Well, there is. There is that.
What is it? You're supposed to find a need and then fill that need.
And fill that need. That's a niche. Yeah. So the interesting part is that somebody just found
that oil filters was going to be the spot.
I don't think it actually is. But so I think that the ATF has been knocking on people's doors saying you ordered an air quotes oil filter, air quotes, and it's not really. So there is right now a bicycle accessory that they're selling on Amazon that looks remarkably like a SIG arm brace for a pistol, but it is marketed and sold as a bicycle accessory.
Huh.
So who
knew?
Right. Since they're not illegal, they're just not allowed to be. You can own one. You just can't connect it to something or to some
oil filter thing they were showing you that every part of them looks like a suppressor except for the end plate. They didn't bother to drill a hole in it. So,
right.
As long as you don't drill a hole in it, then it's still an oil filter.
Right. So it's really interesting. But to me, the interesting part is I know that I need to buy a whole lot more tinfoil to get a tinfoil hat as tough as your tinfoil hat.
I thought that there was a thing against entrapping people, and
I would think, but I believe that the ATF has gone into business with Jeff Bezos, and they have their own Amazon store. That's what I think is a 3-letter agency of the U.S. government. Yeah, so I don't have a bike, officer. One of our listeners says, that there are. It's interesting to watch that stuff happen, and I'm going to tell you, folks, if it looks too good to be true,
it probably is.
There's somebody watching this. There's somebody watching all of this.
And if you did get one, don't film yourself.
No, the fact that you ordered it online means that there's a trail right back to your bank account, right back to your house, right back to your.
That's why you have it delivered to the library and have them pay with a credit, like a bank check.
Yeah, to the library. Don't give them any ideas because that would not be. I'm just gonna say, don't do it. Don't do it. I am the Robin Amanda team. I am the law-abiding one. Just say it. Not that not necessarily a lawbreaker, but you find it a little more flexible than I do. I don't find it flexible at all. I really don't. So, I don't know. It's when you see these things like on Amazon, why? You know that it's illegal. Why would you
But
even?
the thing is, you know that it's illegal because you know what the suppressor looks like.
Right.
But some little old man who doesn't, I mean, how many times have you got a Christmas present from your old people that came from one of them stupid Christmas magazines that sells you the
Okay,
like a monkey that holds toilet paper
and he's cute, right? I get it, but
so the grandpa's looking through this little catalog and he's like, well, maybe Robbie could use this oil filter, or maybe Robbie could use this, and so he buys me this $6.97 thing.
they're going to come knocking on his door, and he's going to be like, "Well, it was an oil filter." They're not going to arrest him. We'll be back.
What?
Honest citizens like you protect themselves every day. We talk about it every week on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Were these gun owners lucky, or did they have a plan? How should we defend the people we love? We discuss recent examples on the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. Put us in your pocket.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Hi, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society podcast. I wanted to let you know that the show you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. You can check out all the shows on the network by going to selfdefenseradio.net or tune in for more on Self-Defense Mondays on Karma Radio, krmaradio.com.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Suffolk and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Well, here's an interesting thing that I kind of dug out, and I didn't know this, and I rolled it past you, and you didn't know this. So we were talking about the NICS checks, or the National Instant, it's National Instant Background Check, but I don't know, the National Instant Background Check System, NICS check. And the number of gun sales, so this is, they've been quoting this NICS check number for the number of gun sales in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and saying how high that is and how it's stayed up there.
You know, we had thought that the numbers were skewed because there's some states that don't have to do the NICS check, so
right.
So we thought that the numbers would be actually higher than what they say, but now we're finding out that they use some filler numbers in there.
Right. So there's an article that was by Dean Weingarten, and the interesting thing is we all know that Illinois has their FOID card, and that with the FOID card, they check to make sure that you're still a citizen in good standing, you know, because the crime is up 200% in a couple of years, but they double check to make sure that you're still a citizen of good standing.
I bet the gangbangers don't have FOID cards.
Maybe not, but they check it on a daily basis. Well, that skews the numbers. I didn't understand that Kentucky did that also. So those are counted in the NICS background checks at the same time. So everybody who's got a FOID card in Illinois becomes one of the datas and one of the numbers, and they just continue to be that.
Sometimes you're more than one of those numbers, depending on how things go in there.
Right. So they're saying that the permitting process and the permit recheck, so the people who get concealed carry cards, the people who are getting their FOID cards, or the confirmation that that's still a valid thing, account now for 60% of the total NICS checks. Well, one, why don't they do those overnight then instead? Because there's times when you're waiting because the system's overwhelmed.
Well, the funny part is this number, with them pumping that number up, it artificially makes Congress think that gun sales are more prevalent than they are.
Right.
And so that's helping us with the winning part.
Right, and it's
It also may help us with the brewing part.
It just may, but you know, as this number kept going up, it was at the same time that many states had passed their license, using their license to buy a gun, so that it could negate that background check, and you just had to check to make sure that your license was still valid. Not knowing that there's an algorithm in the background that on a periodic basis, depending on your state, they were checking to make sure that your license was still valid. And so there's a little bit of all of that. But I thought that this was an interesting, that 60% of the February 2021 numbers, which is like 1.24 million, are permit and permit rechecks within the NICS check.
So get out there and buy a gun, folks. We need to keep those numbers up.
Pump those numbers. Absolutely pump those numbers up. So you crack me up. Absolutely crack me up. So
I can't do it on my own.
No. There's a spot where your wife is like, stop buying guns. And you're like, what? What? Yeah. So that's an interesting thing. So one of our listeners says that every grandma who gives her 3 granddaughters a shotgun for their birthday triggers 3 447 3s in states with universal background checks. Are these included in the increased sales in the last years? They may be. The fact that 60% is this check and double check of the FOID cards was an absolute surprise to me.
Right. Well, the thing is if a 4473 has to go through the background check, then yes, unless she bought all three of them at the same time, then they would basically go
one check.
They would if they went on one form, they would go as one check.
Right, except that if she's transferring them to three different people in a state that has universal background, where grandma can't just gift them, so grandma had to buy them, and then grandma has to gift them.
Right, and then the paperwork was done for each
so
one.
Then
so
it would be that it's anywhere from 4 to 6 background checks. That would be, depending on how grandma is and how flush she is.
Purchasers, what's going on there?
No, that would be a gift. She's allowed to gift. Grandma's not a straw.
Grandma's in the gray area now.
Grandma's not a straw purchaser. She was gifting. She's allowed to take care of her grandchildren. She is. So, Brownells has primers. Warning, warning, alert, alert. There are primers for sale at Brownells. But let's talk about the price.
Well, you said they were 94,000.
Yes,
94,000 plus you got a hazmat fee. So, but you can we looked. You can buy up to. I mean, we just went to 10,000, and
right. We went to 10,000.
It was still $125 hazmat fee. So that makes it only $250 per 1,000 for the hazmat fee. So now there's no excuse to not to buy something.
I know, but it's still $1,000 for the primers. Good gulp.
Right. I mean, that's the thing is, especially when you're old like me, and I can remember when they were 20,000 and went up to 35, and I was freaking out at that point.
Right. But the problem,
I was still buying, but I was just a little bit freaked out about it.
The problem that we've got is the fact that there's been a 2.5-year hiatus where we didn't stop shooting, we just stopped buying, and so we've shot up most of your stockpile.
All right. Well, I mean, I still got a couple years to go, but
okay. So do we still wait for the price to come back down? Do you think the price is going to come back down, or you think it's going to settle in right here?
I think it's going to have to come down some. I don't think, I mean, it's not going to go back to $35 again, but
it may go to
I would
50?
think realistically $45 to $50 should be a normal a price for that.
But
stuff.
it's been so long where people didn't have any that it will move off the shelves pretty quick at $95. It really will, because there's not a lot of people have. I mean, Rob's kids moved out to go to college to get married, and so then he took over the bedroom and became a reloading room. We'll just say that not everybody has a wife that looks the other way and says, "Sure, go ahead, put a workbench in here."
It almost boggles my mind when I hear people that go to the gun show to buy 100 primers. I mean, 100 primers last me about 8 minutes when I'm loading.
That's it. So that's why we're looking at 10,000. We'll be back right after this, kids.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
When people use a firearm in self-defense, they could be arrested or sued and face extensive legal costs. Firearms Legal Protection provides uncapped legal defense for any member who uses a legal weapon in defense of themselves or others, providing members with peace of mind in these difficult situations by covering all attorney fees and other benefits. Use code EOTT at firearmslegal.com for a discount on all membership plans. Protect yourself. We'll protect you.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl / mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Shotgun with Charlie.
I'm Charlie Cook from Writing Shotgun with Charlie. Conversations in the car about gun safety, freedoms, and even a few laughs. Imagine you're in the back seat listening to an intimate chat with me and my passengers as we drive all around the country. Listen, watch, and subscribe to the Writing Shotgun with Charlie YouTube channel and podcast.
Okay, so I was having a little conversation with one of our junior shooters recently, and found out that they are diligently working to, well, one, she's trying to get to the Olympics. So she is trying out and shooting at a level to where she's going to Olympic camp. She's practicing all over the place. She's working with other Olympians. And she's writing for a magazine called the Junior Shooters Magazine. And she was like, yeah, you got to read it. You've got to see it. We can publish it everywhere in all 49 states except for California.
And we were like, what was going on with that? So
you can't publish a magazine in California.
They're not allowed to mention anything that would entice children to like a gun and anything. So
to prohibit any communication or marketing related to firearms. So communication
you think that
marketing.
Would make it almost impossible to make movies, TV.
That might make it attractive to minors.
Right. Well, I mean, if you show bad boys, I mean, that's attractive to somebody.
Well, look at that. And so the John Wick movies or Hellboy or Clint Eastwood.
Everybody wants a pistol like Hellboy's pistol. I mean.
So do they just make those movies or does that, never mind, they're not really talking about that. It's only facts, not the drama.
Now they just have, instead of him carrying around a pistol, he's got a cheesecake in his holster.
There you go. Or like Yehuda Reamer, a bagel. You know, he's got his bagel holster. But so they're going after any communication or marketing related to firearms that may be attractive to minors. The law allows for fines up to $25,000 for violations, and initially puts all ranges, associations, camps, clubs, FFLs, instructors, and youth organizations in jeopardy every time they send out an email or place an ad.
I thought
because they can't train youth, they can't offer to youth, they can't look like they're marketing to youth.
I thought that the First Amendment was in play in California.
No. I think the answer to that is no. And so it's going to be an interesting it's going to be interesting. So
well, I think the rest of the amendments all need their own brewing.
Right. Well, there is. I mean,
we've got so far away from what the original intent and meaning were.
Well, there's still. I was reading something the other day where they were talking about the militia, regulated and militia words, and they're like, well, they don't know what they meant. And it was like, well, didn't you read the Federalist Papers? Because it's very clear in there what they meant. Those were the discussions talking about what they meant prior to them saying it officially or
right. And there was a lot of privately owned cannons and battleships and different things like this. I mean,
yeah.
They would have had an F-15, like Joe Biden says, except for they hadn't invented them yet.
They hadn't. I just want, you got me a cannon for Christmas. It's not a big one, but it's still a cannon. My husband found it. So now I'm in trouble.
The problem you have is, even though it looks like it's little, it's mighty.
I'm in trouble. My husband's like, is that a cannon in the garage? And I'm like, yeah, it needs wheels. Kind of. It needs wheels. So it's not quite where I want it to be, but it'll be.
Yep. She may be little, but she be mighty.
You're like, I was like, I'm sitting there when he says that, and I'm like, so what would be the correct answer to say? How do I couch this so it doesn't look quite so bad?
It's too little for an umbrella holder.
I'm just like, yes. I mean, because I'm not going to tell him an untruth. I may prevaricate just a little bit, or
say, yeah, ain't it cool?
Yeah. Ain't she cool? It's a cocktail waitress in a Dolly Parton wig.
Wheels for that.
I'm gonna have to make wheels. He has a lathe. I could maybe I'll tell him that I need him. He's probably not gonna go for it, but I could get him to turn wheels in his lathe for me, so I'd have wheels. But I don't know. But this Junior Shooters Magazine thing just is crazy to me. But that also means that the youth firearms education, the junior hunters, the people who when you learn about guns and gun safety.
Well, the what do they call that? The hunter safety courses are basically aimed at the youth of today.
And so that's not going to happen.
And I was at the turkey shoot this morning, and their paperwork also has pictures in that, like the old what was his name, Joe Camel.
Yeah.
It entices you to come and shoot turkey shoot.
Right. Yeah. So now I think it's that thing where it's like, if you don't learn about it at home, you're going to learn about it from the gangs, because that's the only place that you get to learn about it. It's kind of that. It used to be that, folks, give your kids sex education because you don't want them to learn about it on the school bus, right? This is what California would prefer, that they learn about it on the street corner or the school bus, or I don't know, someplace that's not necessarily the best place to learn. Just saying. So some of our listeners have been texting me, and the states that constitutional carry or some derivative, some version of that are moving. There's actually 5 now: Utah, Louisiana, Florida, South Carolina, and Nebraska. So there's 25 already passed, and there's 5 more that are working on some derivative of it. And that's cool. That's way cool. And it's gonna make a big difference.
Then West Virginia has this campus carry that they're working on that is not going so smoothly for them, because one team thinks they're getting their toes stepped on.
Well, no, but the governor signed it. So they signed campus carry into law.
But if you look, there still has some places on the campus that they weren't allowed to go to. I didn't get to exactly see where. I just know there was some protected areas.
So some protected areas of it. The bill applies to people with valid concealed carry permits. Those include people who have out-of-state permits recognized by West Virginia who are over 21 years old and not a resident of West Virginia. So in addition to West Virginians. And and West Virginia has reciprocity in 28 states. So it is West Virginians and others. And there's a few places that the administrators are allowed to create gun-free zones. They include the stadiums, the on-campus daycare, disciplinary hearings, individual office settings, and certain laboratories with significant amounts of hazardous material. You also cannot carry in a dormitory room. And but firearms storage areas are required at residence halls if you're not allowed to have it in your dormitory room. So
are they? You said if there was chemicals, they got more regulations than the train system do, huh?
I must. The lab. I don't know. Have you? You probably didn't. But when I was taking some classes, they were like, here, mix this and mix that, and then stand back because something's going to happen, right? So the something's going to happen things. We'll just say that one of my cohorts ended up with half of her hair not there anymore. So there's, when they say stand back, they mean it because things are flammable and things move and stuff like that. But I don't understand what they think that it's going to do with your gun and your holster and your pants because the chemicals should not be able to get to.
Well, maybe you're not supposed to shoot them either. What's that line in that Red October where some things in here don't react well to bullets?
I don't know. You're now assuming that I watched a movie.
Well, you should. Everybody should have watched Hunt for Red October.
So, but I do know that it was filmed about Riga, Latvia, and I have a friend who was from there. So I thought that was cool, but it wasn't that I didn't think it was cool enough to actually watch the movie. Sorry, I have a thing about watching movies. When I start to watch a movie, when I sit, I sleep. So even if the movie is terrific,
I have to watch it 7 times to get through the whole thing.
I was like, okay, this is right here is where I don't remember it anymore. Exactly.
You sure this is the same movie?
It's not a good look for me, but I'm just saying that
I'll see one of those trailers that say a movie's coming. So like we watched that already. I'm like, no, we didn't. So, I can't argue it because I kind of went to sleep before I was thinking enough of it to know.
I didn't know.
I just have to go along with her game. We watched that before.
We watched it, so okay, you're out of luck. So, and you watch way more movies than I do, but I'm either doing stuff and I'm doing stuff right up until it's time to sleep, and then if I sit down, my body says, okay, we're done. We are done. Whatever that is. Because things aren't just calm and cool and collected. And, nope, we're moving. We've got stuff to do. We are moving. I told you that when I come back from this trip where I'd been to the NRA. Oh, by the way, countdown for NRA. If you are intending to vote for the NRA Board of Directors, and please consider voting for the NRA Board of Directors, look for your February magazine, and the deadline is coming up in 20 days. So in 20 days, we're going to know 25 days, we'll know who made it onto the board of directors. So in my travels to do that, I went to there. I was at the Board of Elections stuff. I found out that I had 5 different suitcases in my living room. 5.
Hi, I'm Janelle Westrom, owner of Davenport Guns and Davenport Shooting Club. At Davenport Guns, we do so much more than sell firearms. We advocate for increased personal safety and security, not just for you, but your whole family and community. Go to davenportguns.com to see our online inventory and browse videos, articles, and things we just find entertaining. Sign up for our newsletter to learn more.
This is Cheryl Todd of Gun Freedom Radio, and I am proud to join Amanda Seppacool and all the 50 women, one from each state, in our grassroots efforts to protect the Second Amendment as delegates of the DC Project. Grassroots organizations like the DC Project run on donations, so please consider donating to our GoFundMe/DC Project to keep the promise of freedom alive.
Ladies, ever wish you could find a brand that understood the difference between feminine and functional? A brand that didn't make you choose between looking good and looking tough. Check out offhandgear.com, a brand designed by a gun girl/mom that closed the gap to give you feminine, durable, functional gear. Offhandgear.com, the brand that gets you.
We all know rust is bad. To help keep rust from forming on your firearms, tools, and other ferrous-based items, you want to have Rust is Bad in your gun-safe toolbox and anywhere you want to be rust-free. Rust is Bad bolsters and G-strings deposit small, safe particles that coat your rust-vulnerable items. Save your valuable items with Rust is Bad. Go to www.eyeonthetargetradio.com and follow the link for more information. That's www.eyeonthetargetradio.com for Rust is Bad.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition, and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back, by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Your front door, your car, your gun. Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different, and the best way to help prevent accidents, misuse, and theft. Cable locks help keep firearms secured. Learn how to get a free firearm safety kit. Visit projectchildsafe.org. If you have a firearm, own it, respect it, and secure it. Brought to you by the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the Bureau of Justice Assistance.
Grab your friends and head to Georgia to train with the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant offers a unique approach to self-defense training, layering the first signs of danger, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, and even surviving the aftermath. They offer premier firearms training with a range master certified instructor and host the top minds in our industry. See the courses offered on thecompletecombatant.com. That's thecompletecombatant.com.
Okay, so interestingly enough, there's some more restrictions on gun-related things. So there is I don't even know how you explain this.
Well,
so major credit card companies. A couple months ago, the credit card companies were putting a code for gun purchases on so they could track them. Mm-hmm. And they were putting them to the merchants, so that instead of just going on as sporting goods, it went on as a gun purchase and stuff. Specifically that. And so I know Discover had approved that. And so this is where cash is king. So if you don't need to use your credit card, it makes a difference if you're buying stuff like this at your on your company credit card or whatever, where you were trying. I mean, one thing if you were just buying a pair of shoes or something at Dick's Sporting Goods or
or maybe you needed a golf club for some outing, but now it all comes up as guns or ammo or whatever.
Right. It's really interesting because so Reuters has an opinion because they're supposed to be reporting the news, not making the news, but they are now saying that they're saying so the credit card companies have put this out there and they're creating this code and so they're tracking you. So Big Brother is watching you, all of that. So there are bills introduced in Texas, Florida, Mississippi, Oklahoma, West Virginia, and Wyoming that would prohibit or limit banks from using merchant category codes that are tracking gun sales. And so so that's where that is. And Reuters is saying that, guess what, that is undermining a tool that is welcomed by gun control advocates. Let's just say, boy howdy, yes, it is. Because the purpose is that we don't want gun control advocates to know who has a gun, what gun. It is a perfectly legal aspect defined and defended by the Second Amendment, and yet all of a sudden the banks are going to start to track who and what you can do and then tell the gun control advocates? No. Absolutely no, not. So I think it's interesting. And this is one of those articles that I am going to go hand to my state rep because I don't see Ohio on this list.
So if worse comes to worse, you can always go get a cash advance on your card at an ATM and then just pay cash for the gun.
Right.
And
you could also just go get that, the little stash that you hide under the mattress.
Right.
And
but if you were putting it on your credit card, you just got one extra step of hoop jumping is all.
Well, either that or do we... the problem is that when you take a cash advance, you're paying a different interest rate than you are when you make a purchase.
Cost of doing business. If you ain't got the stash under your bed and you need said item,
and you don't
the
want
extra 1.2% that they're going to sock it to you by is incidental.
Sock it to you. But yeah, so no, it's going to be an interesting...
Years ago, I had an old guy that would come in and he'd say, he says, it really doesn't make that much difference. He says, as long as when it's all said and done and the dust settles, I get what I want and you get what you want and everybody's happy. And I'm like, that is a very good attitude.
That's it. As long as you get what you want and I get what I want, we're all good. Because people will say to me something about, what did you pay for this or what do you pay for that? My husband is a big one. Is an absolutely big one on, what did you pay for gas? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, how do you not know what you paid for gas? And I'm like, I drove past. They had it for sale. I needed it. I was not willing to walk.
Right?
So,
and they're not going to get you for too much more than the other guy. Most nickel.
Because somebody else is keeping that kind of controlled, right? But and my husband is like, how can you not know what you paid for gas?
And sometimes you don't want to tell him because you don't want him to feel bad because he paid a quarter more.
I'm not telling him. I'm not tracking it. That's not even on my radar to keep track of.
Right. Like I said, back in the day when we had the shop, guy'd come in, he'd buy a gun, and a week later he'd come back and want to trade it in. And I'm like, you realize I got to make money on both ends of this. So I'm like, I'm going to have to sock it to you here on this. He's like, I'm used to it. When I go to the gun show, they sock it to me. He says, you just tell me what we got to do to make you happy and me happy, and we'll go. Because I just want to go. And I'm like, okay, so here's what I'll do for you. And he would,
you're like,
good.
Why don't you just rent the gun, dude? Because if you're not keeping it...
Or you could buy it with a prearranged buyback program at the beginning. So I know that down the road, you're going to lose $40 on the deal, and I get it back in a week.
We're going to be all good, and I'll just keep selling and marketing it so that I've got the next guy lined up. Right. So I don't know. So what things do you keep track of cost of? Because there's so much stuff that I look at it and I'm like, I need it.
The problem is I'm cheap. I'm notoriously cheap. So, and it's not so much if I need gunpowder and it's $50 a pound, I need gunpowder, so I got to buy it.
Right.
But if I go to the store and I want chips or I want a hot dog and it's $50 a pound, I'm not buying it.
Well,
so like, go to the store, buy me this, and this, and don't tell me what it costs. Because I want it, but I won't pay that kind of money for it.
I had a friend who just was talking about the fact that she bought Honeycrisp apples because she was already over budget. And I'm like, I love those. And I walk over and I look and they're twice as much as the other apples. And I was like, I'll eat the other apples.
Well, so my mom used to always tell me, it was like, when I was a kid, I bought hot dogs a lot. She'd say, you will save 40 cents to eat crap versus eat what you want. So how long is that 40 cents going to last you?
And you're like,
you might as well just buy the stuff you want.
You might as well, and it'll go. There's that. I love sending my husband for apples because he'll buy the Honeycrisp because he knows I like them. And I'm like, just don't tell me what they cost.
And I'm like, just don't tell me what they cost.
Because there is that.
There's
but
that.
Other stuff,
but
if
other
you
stuff,
need it,
if you need it, I don't track what it is, but I'm really, yes, I'm tactically frugal.
Like, I mean, when we're doing this house rebuilding stuff, and I need a sump pump, I will look at 3 or 4 vendors before I buy one. I mean, it isn't that I got to have this certain green one because it's cool looking. I need it to do this job for this much money, and then whoever's going to give me the best price, and I have to factor in that like credit card fees and the shipping and all that versus I can have it today and.
Right, and so sometimes what is today worth versus what's your time worth?
A lot of as an American, today is worth a lot to us, and we, even if we're not using it for a week, we'll pay extra to get it today, so it's in our hands.
Well, because I might need it.
Right, I mean, you know for a fact that you can buy it online for half the price, but it's going to be Tuesday before it comes in. But you'll just go down and buy one so that you have it.
But part of that is also I like, as much as I am tactically frugal, I like to support local companies. So if there's a chance, I mean, so folks, there's a hardware store here that's run by retired little old men. It is the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life because the average age has got to be 80 years old, right? And so anything you want to know, they'll tell you how to do it. But and their price is about...
Big sign on the door, no cell phones allowed.
Don't bring your cell phone in, we'll throw you out. And their price is about 20% more than pretty much anything else on the smaller stuff. The bigger stuff, they're pretty close. And I like to support them. I really do. And periodically I'm like, can I bring my phone in and I'll show you pictures? Right? Because when I bought this stuff I was doing tile work. They're like, you're doing this? Sure. You want to see pictures? I got to go out to the car to get the phone, though, because that's where the pictures are. But it's crazy. What we track is cost and what we don't track is cost. So I don't know how we got so off track, folks. I really don't. But that's just something to think about.
Because your credit card's robbing you while you're buying
there is
bullets.
that. So I guess what it matters is when you find the gun you want, just buy the gun you want because you're not going to remember what it costs next year. Right?
Right. Cost goes way fast after you get what you want.
We'll see you next week.
Okay, you ask yourself, who is this Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition and what do they do? Realize Firearms Awareness Coalition is a not-for-profit group based in Portage County, registered as a 501c3, and organized to educate about the historical intent of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America, to share knowledge, to enable citizens to accurately relate and defend aspects of the U.S. Constitution, to enhance public awareness and support for responsible gun ownership, and to emphasize firearms education for women who facilitate the transmittal of constitutional awareness and gun ownership to succeeding generations. How do they intend to do that? By talking to you all and having you talk back by hosting educational summits and events. So tune in, listen, and participate. RealizeFAC.com.
Okay. Yeah, we were everywhere. It was like, okay. So, is there anything in the stuff that I just talked about that we're going to talk about tomorrow? Okay. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to send that to Mike Loychek, the guy who just is doing the Second Amendment Preservation Act, and see if that's something he may be able to be interested in picking up. When is yours? When is yours over? Oh. Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting. Oh, we're still live on Facebook. Petrolino just